Welcome back to the Bluechip Breakdown, Vols fans. I'm your host, Bull. Coming off of a big win in the Citrus Bowl, Tennessee wins 35-0 versus the Iowa Hawkeyes. In today's video, we're going to be talking about what we learned from that game. Had a chance to go back, watch the film pretty briefly. Most of it was focusing on Nico, and I will have a film breakdown coming out for him. That's going to be open to everybody, so I hope that y'all enjoy it. We will have more film breakdowns of the Citrus Bowl. That's going to be for members only, so if you would like to see more of that content, make sure that you become a member of this channel. Now, let's start off talking about a little bit of transfer portal news, because we all know that that's going to be a big part of what this roster is going to look like moving forward in 2024. P and I spoke on it yesterday. We know that there's some holes that we have to get filled on this team. We're going to talk about all that throughout this video. But starting it off in that transfer portal, there is a new name that is coming up, and that is Jalen McMurray. He's a 6 foot, 170-pound corner from Temple. He is expected to be visiting Tennessee this week. And then also AJ Harris, that's the cornerback from Georgia, who could play nickel or, star, could play safety, also obviously could play corner. He's a really good football player. Haven't seen a whole lot of Jalen's film, but he does look pretty solid in coverage. AJ is another guy who could potentially be visiting Tennessee this week. I know that he is planning on visiting Tennessee at some point coming up here shortly, so we'll keep you up to date on that. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some of the numbers from the Citrus Bowl yesterday. All right, so starting off with first downs, Tennessee got 25 first downs to Iowa's 11, so we did a good job right there, on first down. That is half of the battle. Now, once you come down here to third downs, we did do a better job than Iowa did, but we were only at 25%, so obviously that's something that will have to get cleaned up in the off season as we continue to look through all this. We also outgained Iowa 383 yards to their 173. So it was a dominant performance, just like we thought that it would be. We outrushed them 232 yards to 113, and we had 151 passing yards. They only had 60. So it's not good for us that we only had 151 passing yards. Would have liked to have seen us stretch the field out a lot more, maybe complete more passes, throw the ball a little bit more. But overall, for Nico's first outing, I thought that was pretty good. Defense did a good job versus an Iowa offense that we all know is not great at passing the football. They don't have a great offense in general. And, these numbers right here are showing that. Penalties. Tennessee actually did a pretty good job with penalties. It was a relatively clean game for us. Only 3 penalties for 30 yards to Iowa's 5 for 41. So proud to see that. Turnovers, we didn't have any. We forced 3 from Iowa, so that is a really big deal. Hopefully that will carry over into 2024. And then you're looking at the punt yardage and things like that. So there was also no safeties. But I think overall, pretty good job by Tennessee just really dominating in this game. All right, now we are going to talk a lot about Nico and what this team needs to do moving forward to give him the pieces that he needs around him to do what? Win championships, right? That's what we are all about on this channel. So number one, whenever you look at defense, there's a guy that stepped up for us in a very big way versus Iowa offense, and that's Tyree West. He's a guy that had 4 tackles. He had, half of a sack, but he, showed that he can play that strong side defensive end. I hope that wasn't just fool's gold. I hope it wasn't just like a one and done thing, because we do need an end, obviously, because Tyler Barron isn't here anymore. So if he could step up, now obviously we've got a whole lot more depth, because we do think that there are a couple more players, younger guys on this roster who could help out right there. Also, talking about that front, Elijah Simmons looked good, as I kind of went through that film. He got half a sack, but doing a really good job getting to those run fits and slowing down Iowa's rushing attack. Big O also looked good as well. Both of those guys will be back next season. And then, Omar Norman-Lott didn't play in this one, but he would have been huge as well in this game. Obviously, he's going to be back next season. So that's going to be big. It's going to be critical. We've got a whole lot of veteran depth at that tackle position. Like we always talk about, we're going to have to go out and find some younger guys, though, because those 2 gentlemen, or those 3, will be leaving us after next season. Now, Bryson Easton is another guy who flashed, had a good game. Looks like he kind of went down at some point in the game with, maybe not really an injury, but kind of got banged up there. So hope that he's okay. I don't know if he came back into the game, but obviously, it's a big deal for him to be kind of stepping up. He is going to have to gain some weight, I think, in the offseason, so that's going to be big for him. He also had half a sack. Now, once you go up to that second level, okay, we talked about Herring having a really big game, or, maybe not a really big game, but he looked better than he normally does versus this offense. Obviously, SEC type competition is going to be completely different. Still not 100% sold on Herring, but I am happy to see him being able to kind of take those steps in the right direction. He did have a sack in this game. Looks a whole lot better whenever he's not having to think, so maybe that could benefit us and him, as a unit moving forward next season. Once he kind of understands what's going on a little bit better, he's seen it for a full year as a starter, and then he's got all of off season to kind of go back, watch the film, fix any errors that he may have had this past season, and then maybe the game will start to slow down for him, and that will be huge because obviously we are going to need depth at the linebacker position. Now, Jeremiah Thielander, who, is a true freshman this season, will come in as a sophomore. He's played a lot for our Volunteers, relatively speaking, as a true freshman. Love what he did all season. He actually was tied for the lead in tackles in this game with Gabe Jeudy-Lally. They both had 5 tackles. So that's a very, very encouraging sign from the youth of this football team. All right, now moving on up to that last level, to that third level, talking about the safeties. Andre Turrentine looked good in this game. He was the guy that I was really worried about in this football game, but he did play well. Really proud of him. He did get that interception in the end zone. So obviously that was a critical play for us because we did want to come in and get that goose egg versus Iowa, just like Michigan did. We actually beat Iowa worse than they did. I still believe that Tennessee is a better football team than Michigan. I think that if we played them, even, with all the injuries that we have right now, we would beat them. But if both teams are at full strength, I definitely feel like Tennessee could come out and have a lot of success versus Michigan. But anyway, moving on, just talking about next season, really good look to have a safety kind of step up for you. I also like what Jordan Thomas did in this game. He looked really good. He had a tackle for a loss. So, playing at the star position, we talked about it. We need some guys who are physical up there. And obviously we've got a couple of guys coming in to help out the secondary. We talked about 2 who, Tennessee's also looking to add earlier in this video. So we'll see what those position battles look like for our defense moving forward throughout the offseason, but it does look like we've got some good depth. We've got some guys who can ball. Ricky Gibson had a pretty good game. He'll be back next season. Didn't get to see a whole lot of Jordan Matthews, but he's another one that obviously, you want to try to see these guys a lot more. Not quite sure what's going on and why we're not rotating more of the secondary guys. We definitely thought that we would coming into this game, but it's all good. The coaching staff knows what they have with these young men, and they will be able to get them right in the offseason. That is my expectations. We've all got to take a giant leap forward, but again, I am expecting a lot of really healthy competition, especially on defense. All right, now for the offense. Okay, we're going to talk about the running back room first. Dylan Sampson had a really good game. 20 carries, 133 yards for 6.7 yard average. That's close to what Jalen Wright had last year. I think he was at 7.2, 7.4, but that's a really good sign. Okay, this is an Iowa defense that pretty much what they love to do is stop that run. Playing in the Big Ten West especially, most of those offenses are very run heavy. So that does speak to how good our running backs are. Now, whenever you talk about Cam Seldon, he had 13 carries for 55 yards and 4.2 yards per carry. That's about what he averaged throughout the season, but you really like his upside. He's a bigger body back. Now, as we're talking about these running backs, there was a time when Dylan Sampson, it looked like, kind of missed on a chip, and Nico ended up taking a sack. So he is still going to have to work to, get better in pass protection. Didn't really like what I saw out of him right there. There was actually 2 or 3 plays I'm kind of going through film, and I'm like, you could have done a little bit better right there. So that's something that I feel like Cam Seldon is already better at. It's because maybe he's a bigger body. I'm not quite sure. But if Dylan Sampson wants to be running back number 1, and I still don't think that is a, closed deal, he's going to have to improve right there. We talked about that last season as well. So hopefully he will make those strides. But I really like what we have inside of that running back room. I think we've got a lot of dynamic playmakers back there, and we should be straight moving forward. Now, whenever we talk about the wide receivers, this is where things are going to start to kind of get a little bit muddy. Not going to give you any numbers, but what we did notice throughout this game was, hey, it's not just Joe Milton. We're seeing that these wide receivers are just not great making catches. Okay, Keaton, who's a guy who will not be here next year, but he's still having these drops. He's still cutting off routes. Pete and I talked about that yesterday. Just can't have that. I think that Caleb Webb also had a drop. Chaz Nimrod still looks more consistent than those two. Obviously, Dante Thornton didn't play. You're hoping that he takes that leap forward next season if he does stay with this team. Squirrel White continues to be a dog. We all trust in him. We know that Brew will be coming back. Okay, that has not come out officially yet, but we are anticipating that news is about to break any day now. Evan Stewart, can we get him on campus? Austin Price and, Volquest, they're all saying it's probably less than like a 50% chance. I still feel very confident, okay? Like, I definitely trust what they're saying, but it's just something about it. I think that this is kind of like a match made in heaven for both parties, and I think that Evan Stewart would succeed here a lot. The other team I think that we need to be watching out for is going to be USC. Obviously, we know playing in the Big Ten, but it's still West Coast ball. They pass the football a lot. Their quarterback looked good in his showing in their bowl game, and they lost a few playmakers, so that could be a place that Evan Stewart ends up at. But Tennessee definitely needs some more depth, I think, at wide receiver. Now, we do have Chris Brazzell coming in. Do expect for him to be a starter. He's a really good football player. He's got the game, maybe 10 pounds, coming into SEC football play. Mike Matthews, who's a young guy. Braylon Staley, another one. Nathan Leacock, who's a guy who's been on this roster. Nate Spillman, who's a guy that we cannot overlook. He's also a really good football player. And then, maybe Boo Carter will get some burn there as well. So we do have some good talent, but it's a lot of young talent. It's a whole lot of unproven talent. And, I would not be angry to see us go out and add some more dynamic playmakers for Nico. Again, like I said earlier in this video, we could have thrown for a lot more yards versus Iowa defense because we had the better athletes, but they're just not finishing plays on the outside like what you want, like what we're going to need moving forward, and what's going to be a much more, it's going to be a much tougher SEC schedule for everybody. And, we just need some dogs. Not really seeing a whole lot of that right now. Several people are going to have to step up. So another close thing for us to keep an eye out on, going into the 2024 season. All right, now that offensive line, okay, we know that we had John Campbell out, and we had Gerald Mincey was switched over to left tackle, and that's really where he started off playing at, and he was playing banged up. But, I know some people are like, man, looks like he's giving lackadaisical effort out there. I've said that a lot throughout the season, but it just sounds like he's been playing hurt. That is a little bit concerning, though, because he did give up some really bad sacks, and it does look bad on film. So a little bit of a question mark right there at tackle. Dane Davis didn't look great playing at right tackle. Not quite sure what's going on there. Jackson Lampley looked solid, but, he didn't look great either. Spraggins will be plugged in for Jackson Lampley. And, again, we are anticipating that our starting tackles will be John Campbell and then Gerald Mincey at right tackle. So we should have a much better offensive line as far as pass protection moving forward. Our tight ends played well. Callie Castles was the only one who got a touchdown. Actually, I think that he's the only person that Nico has thrown a touchdown to all season. So we'll see how things play out next year. Without him, still think that Ethan Davis is going to be Nico's probably favorite target, or at least one of them. We've got, again, we've got a few guys who could step up into that role, but Ethan Davis didn't play much either. So still not 100% sure what we're going to have from him, in college play, but he has the correct skill set. Holden Stays, obviously he's played. We've seen him. He looks good. We should be just fine. Now, talking about the $8 million man, love what I saw from him. Again, we are going to be doing a film breakdown. We'll go a little bit more in depth with it. But whenever you talk about a quarterback with a good pocket presence, for the most part, okay, you can tell that his fundamentals have gotten a lot cleaner throughout this season. Okay, his footwork looked really good. Really good throwing motion, and he's got a very strong arm. He's got a live arm. He throws catchable footballs. Guys did drop a pass or two. His numbers could have looked a lot better, but you talk about a guy who can make plays. Okay, you talk about the tempo of that offense sped up. Okay, it was a lot faster than what it was for the most part throughout all the 2023 season. So looks like he's got all the tools to be able to get it done. By the way, he's really fast. We see him kind of scampering out. Let's talk about his numbers. All right, so he was 12 for 19, which is 63%. He had 151 yards passing. He had one touchdown. We talked about that, 2 Callie Castles. And he also had 15 carries for 27 yards, right? That's like a 1 point something yards per carry average. But with college stats, they do throw the sacks into that as well. There were 6 sacks given up in this game by our offensive front. And obviously, that's not good. Tennessee only had 5 on our defensive front. So got to definitely get that cleaned up. We just talked about it. But if you take those sacks out of Nico's stats, he actually would have been 9 for 51, okay, which is 5.6 yards per carry. So that is really good. Obviously, whenever you have a quarterback that can throw the football everywhere, okay, that can also extend the plays, and he'll still sling it down the football field if someone gets open, but he can also make you pay with his legs. That's a big, big deal, dude. I mean, our offense should be really good with Nico moving forward. There are a few more things, that I would like to see out of this coaching staff. Hey, open up the playbook a little bit more. Again, is it because the offensive line was kind of banged up, kind of a makeshift line? Is it because, you know, the guys on the outside just maybe aren't as capable as what we would hope they are right now, and that they have to grow. I think it's a combination of all those things, and then two, trying to protect Nico as much as you can. But for the most part, y'all, you know, P and I and everyone else on this channel, we're all very, very excited for 2024. But we will be coming back to y'all with some more news as it comes with this football team. Still got a whole lot of things going on. You know, obviously transfer portal, you know, we've got the guys in the All-Star game, and, you know, spring practice will be here before we know it. Still have the NFL draft, you know, pro days, all that good stuff. So again, we'll keep y'all up to date. As always, please make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We'll see y'all in the next one. Thanks. Peace.